every successful author reaches a point where doing everything alone just doesn't work anymore. But what if there was a way to get trusted, reliable support without wasting time or money? That's what Author Anchor is here to solve. I'm sitting down with Kevin Tumlinson, return guest and now Chief Branding Officer for Author Anchor, to talk about this brand new service from BookBrush that helps authors connect with the right virtual assistants. We'll dive into how it works, who it's for, and why the right support system might be the shortcut you've been looking for. Welcoming back to the channel, Kevin Tumlinson. How are you doing, buddy?
Sir, sir, thank you for having me on again, man. You didn't have to. You didn't have to go so far.
Multi-time guest. I think we've lost count at this point. I've been on your channel, you've been on my channel. It's
I
it's
think I
been
get a jacket now,
You should.
right?
Actually, all joking aside, I really need to look into like a gold member jacket because you at this point, I think you could probably consider yourself a co-host of Self-Publishing with Dale.
I feel like, yeah, but I was there. I got to see the birth of sort of your show and the style that you've
Yeah.
cultivated over the years. I feel honored to be a part of your history, man. Appreciate
Well,
it.
before we dive into the interview, talk a little bit more about
Yeah.
Author Anchor. I want to address this with the live viewers and replay viewers. If you guys have questions for Kevin, please fire away. Let's keep it on topic, so we're talking a little bit more about Author Anchor and more specifically virtual assistants and hiring them. So, and if you could proceed your question with a cue, so that way we know you need that question answered. Remember to fire off those questions. Don't wait. Kevin's always ears to whatever you've got as far as questions go. Speaking of Kevin, let's go ahead and start it out. What is Author Anchor and how did it come to life under the BookBrush umbrella? Because that seems kind of weird. A graphic design company has
Yeah.
now opened up a virtual assistant marketplace.
When I tell you, it's going to make perfect sense, because it does make perfect sense. But these guys have been around for a while now, and I had the privilege of being there kind of at the birth of their company as well. I helped shape the brand and the name of the company. They used to be book covers sell books, or covers sell books rather. And I kind of helped them with rebranding that. But here's the deal. They spent all this time building up their company using VAs from the Philippines. And one of the things that kind of kept coming around for them was authors would ask, because they'd come in and they'd use BookBrush, and they're, BookBrush is doing all these like marketing related things. And authors would ask the same question I've heard a million times over the years, which is, is there a done for me marketing service? And the truth about that is, like, there is just no business model that makes done for you marketing work and be affordable for the author while also being profitable for the company, unless you train someone to be a specific personal marketing resource for an author. So that's where they had that idea. It kind of came from that, and then they said, you know what? We've already got all these. We've got all these VAs that we're using. What if we train them a little more? What if we start training them in all things author related? Everything that all these groups that are out there, all these companies that are out there, we train these VAs to use things like Vellum, to use Book Funnel, to use all the various tools that we authors rely on, right? And then we open it up. We make this pool available to the author, and the author can come on board and they can interview some VAs and find a good fit for them, personality wise, and then we're off to the races. So they created an affordable, like vetted, trained approach to helping authors not just take care of their marketing now, but all the little things, the little admin and business tasks. We get told all the time, you're if you're an author, you're in business. But a lot of us will say, "Oh, I don't want to be in business. I just want to write." And so
That's
this
true.
is a resource so that you can just write. That's what it all comes back to.
Yeah, everyone wants to continue writing. I am among the many. And now,
Yeah.
how does this process work for authors looking to connect with a virtual assistant through the platform? Is this Do you just put a project up and the virtual assistants bid on it? What
Nope.
is that like for me?
This is personalized. This is
Okay.
you finding a personal assistant who gets to know you, whom you get to know. You work closely with, you work side by side with. You are, in a way, what you're bringing on. You could think of them as an employee in a sense, but I like to think of my VA. Her name is Aya, because I don't want to just constantly refer to someone by title, right? She's a wonderful human being that I'm coming to know better every day.
Mhm.
She's a partner in crime with me. We're cohorts in the business of Kevin Tomlinson and all things Kevin Tomlinson. And so she's learning sort of the silos of my business, learning my preferences, learning. She came in with skill sets that are very useful. And she's learning more because part of the author anchor premise is that there's continuous training or continual training. They're required to go through these things, regularly, where we're making partnerships. Like, I was at Writer MBA in New Orleans last week. Part of why I was there was to promote this to the authors, but I also partnered up with all the different retailers or vendors rather, and the people, the industry folk, and set up a whole bunch of potential partnerships to help train our VAs to use those services and tools on behalf of the author. So the process is what you really asked about.
Mhm.
So they would go to the website. It's authoranchor.com. Actually, there's a special URL you can go to, would help me out. So authoranchor.com/promo. If you go to that one, it helps us know that they got there through this. Tell them I sent you. Tell them Dale. You heard about it from Dale Roberts. So they sign up for a discovery call, and they're actually going to talk to, really, she's a brilliant VA herself. We've hired her full time. Her name is Moesha. She's the maven of the VAs. She's keeping everybody's in check, right? But she will talk to you, ask you some questions. And what I recommend is go there. You go to her with two lists. List number one is, here's all the crap that I absolutely hate and never want to do again.
Okay.
All the stuff that I do as a part of my author business that I despise, and but I know must be done. If you hate social media, if you hate marketing, that those are the things that go on that list. The other list is all the skills I wish I had, but don't, and don't have time for, and don't really particularly want to have to learn.
Yeah.
On that list for me is things like, how to set up and run a Kickstarter campaign, or how to set up a Shopify store. We have VAs who are literally experts in some of this stuff. They are experts in Kickstarter. They're experts in Amazon ads and Facebook ads. They're experts in setting up Shopify stores. We've got people who are they come to us with skills that are already perfect for authors, and then we just expand their skill set. Once you do that discovery call, Militia is going to set you up with like two or three VAs to have a chat with. You do a little interview.
Okay.
Right. I recommend that you have them ask you questions too, you know. Um, but ask them about the things that you want to do. Like, what's your experience with Kickstarter, for example? Have you ever done a Kickstarter? This will help you kind of vet and figure that out, figure out if they're someone you want to work with. But get in there and get some, chat a little. Get some personality going, because that this is somebody you're going to be, entrusting a lot of your business to, right? So, you want to get to know each other. If you find at the end of that process that none of those three worked out, you're not clicking with anybody, Moshe will set you up with some more. And by the way, there's no contract to the service. So if you are working with someone for a month and they're not working out, you can have them bring you more people to chat with, and
Hmm.
and maybe refine the skill set a little more. You learn as you grow, right? So the whole point is not to be stuck Like this should not be something you feel stuck with once you've made a decision. This should be something that feels like it's liberating you so that you can just write. That's the end game goal.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there was the answer to your question.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
you got all you definitely for sure. You've named so many things that they're able to do. It seems like they're very flexible, and in some instances, if they don't know the skill, you guys can find the person who has the skill or train them up to have that skill.
That is a key thing to remember because
Yeah.
if you get somebody and you like, let's say that there's a specialized thing you want a VA to do. Ask first and see if maybe we have someone who can do that. Second, recommend that as like, I really need someone who can do this.
Okay.
And if we can find a resource to do it, maybe it's partnering with somebody and we'll train them to do it. I was talking to the folks at BookBub this past week.
Hmm.
There are things that authors can do, should do on BookBub. And let's face it, sometimes you and I, we've been doing this for so long, we don't think about it. But like sometimes some of that stuff is so intimidating that the authors don't really want to mess with it,
Yep.
right? I'm that way with Shopify. I need somebody to go do Shopify for me because I feel like I'm missing the boat on that. I'm
Yeah.
leaving money on the table because every time I go to look at Shopify, my brain fogs over and I want to go do anything else. So I can have my VA go and research how to do that, or I can go and this is cheap enough that if I wanted, I could go talk to them and say, I want an additional VA. I'm gonna hire her for like the next month or 2 months or 3 months,
Hmm.
and they're gonna help me specifically with Shopify. It's inexpensive enough that you can do that. And we can talk about what that means, like what the rates are
Hmm.
at any time. It's not a secret. It's not a surprise. I will tell you everything.
You got my attention now. For some reason, you must have read my mind, knew that I was going towards that direction. Are all VAs charging the
Because we're
same,
like
or do
this,
they
Dale.
vary?
Yeah, no, it stays the same. So
Okay.
here's the deal. The way this works is you hop in, there's $100, $99, we call it a platform fee. That's actually a little misleading because it is per VA. So it's not access to the platform, it's more like paying for their access to the platform in a way. That money, that's where we make our money. We don't make any money off of their rate. Right. So the rate is $5 an hour, and that's just the minimum. If
Okay.
you decided I want to pay my VA more, you're like, that can happen. Okay.
Oh, okay. So it's flexible.
It's flexible, but the
Okay.
minimum is $5 an hour with a minimum 10 hours a week. So if you do the math on that, $99, 10 hours a week at $5 an hour, it's around $300 a month would be your like bottom end price, right?
Yeah.
Um, that gives you 40 hours of work every month. That's pretty good. My first VA, the first VA I ever hired, cost me $50 an hour. And she didn't know the business. She didn't know much of anything. The first thing I ever asked her to do was go and get me a list of every writing related podcast that there is so that we can start pitching to it. She spent 10 hours that week and brought me the first page of Google results for writing podcasts.
Oh
And I was
no. Oh
I was the top
no.
3 on that list.
Oh
So
no. Here, go up here on your podcast,
So
Kevin.
yeah, we're sending pitches to me now. So that's the thing.
Yeah.
I got much better results this time with Aya than at a much lower rate. Um,
Yeah.
you can up the hours. You can always increase the hours. You can, like I said, if you have what I like, and I talked to a lot of people about this. It's inexpensive enough for most of us. I know there's always going to be people that can't justify this, and that's fine. But
Yeah.
for most writers, if you're experiencing any success at all, and I'll give you a criteria in a second as for when you should not do this or do this. I'll give you that in a second. But
Okay.
the key here is it's inexpensive enough for most of us that if you have a specialty project, I want to run a Kickstarter, for example, that you could bring on a resource who specializes in that. But if you do that, I would say part of their job that month is help bring my full-time VA up to speed on how to do a Kickstarter. You see? get
So
some
they can
training going.
train the other VA
Right.
then. Interesting. Okay.
I actually have the perfect first assignment for when you hire a VA. The perfect first assignment is have them create a process for something that you want to do. And here's the deal. Let's use Kickstarter.
Okay.
I bring on the VA and I say, okay, look, week one, I want you to spend, um, 2 hours to 5 hours. I want you to spend 2 hours and create a process for creating, launching, and promoting a Kickstarter campaign, a successful Kickstarter campaign. Check in at 2 hours. So when they do that, when you get that process, you can look at that with them and you say, okay, let's fix this, let's change that. Give me a little more research on this, right? Two things are happening. One, you're learning how to work with this person. You're learning their communication style, skills, you're learning how you like to communicate. I don't like doing things by email personally. So I created a Slack channel. I created a board in Notion. I've got these tools and things. So I'm learning how to work with her and she's learning how to work with me and we're learning how to communicate with each other. So that's thing number one. Very useful. Number two, you're creating that process because my Aya, she's putting herself through grad school on the money that she's making with this. Read that as one day she's going to leave me.
Yep.
Okay. She's going to move on and rightfully so, unless I get to a point where I'm like, hey, look, here's a full-time salary or whatever, you know, uh, but and hopefully by then that's a justified expense on my part. But the thing is, if she does that, if she happens to leave before I can have her train someone who's replacing her, I've got a written process or a video recorded process or something that I can use to train the next person.
Then you're not
Right.
having to redo everything.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's the perfect first assignment. It's a perfect ongoing assignment. Like every time you want them to do something new, have them create a process for it. Um, the question of whether or not they oh gosh, I just lost the thread. Whether or not you should actually pull the trigger and hire a VA.
I almost got you on that one there, man. I had your back, but you worked it out.
I figured it out. Eventually my brain like clicks into drive. But
Yeah.
and so here's what I would say. This is actually not for everybody, right?
Right.
Here's the key. You should never worry about how I'm going to pay for my VA. That should never be the thing,
Yeah.
right? Uh, but what you want is a scenario where you need to look at this as how can this VA help me so that I am increasing my revenue potential?
Hmm.
Okay. And let's say that in better terms, softer terms. How do I make sure that using this VA to help with my work allows me to make more money? Right. So the argument, the question, the discussion is never, I got to figure out a way to afford my VA. It's never that. It should never be that. It
Right.
should always be, how do I make sure that I'm using this resource, which I actually kind of hate phrasing it that way. How do I make sure that I'm working with this wonderful person in such a way that they're blessing my business?
Hmm.
I'm making more money because I'm handing off more things. As writers, the key to making more money as a writer is producing more books, right? And marketing is an important aspect of that. But if you're so busy doing the marketing, I've seen this, Dale, you've seen this. We get so tied up in the marketing, and some of us are amazing at it. Some of us love the marketing side.
Yeah.
I've been a marketing guy my whole career. I hate marketing, right? Like I've been a
Yeah.
marketing guy since I rolled out. I was wearing branded diapers, right? Like I was representing way back in the crib, but I hate marketing. I hate doing the marketing.
Yeah.
Um, I love representing things I love. I love representing brand. I loved representing Drafted Digital. Still do, by the way. I love representing, all the various things I've become involved in. I love representing Author Anchor because it helps my community, right? But I don't like doing marketing tasks. So that's the key here is like I figure it out. Aya can take on a bunch of the marketing tasks on my behalf while I go do the stuff that I started this business in the first place for. I can go write. And because I'm writing more books, I can make more money. So it justifies this, fairly, I hate to say things like minor expense, man. I have been in moments in my life where 300 bucks a month was not a minor expense.
Oh yeah.
So it's a consideration.
$30 sometimes wasn't a minor
You
expense.
know,
Yeah.
yeah. Only recently I've had moments where I'm like, can I afford this $3 cup of coffee?
Yeah.
Perhaps a second mortgage. So yeah,
Right.
if you're making the decision, the key is, will this allow me to increase my revenue potential, increase the ability to make more money? That's the decision maker. If the answer is no, or even a very, very strong maybe, or weak maybe rather, then maybe you reconsider.
Yeah.
But it's all about strategy. So.
What would you say? I mean, backing up, just looking at just the base cost of like say $300 per month. Is there additional fee on top of that that we have to pay the platform? Because I'm sure you guys need to pay your bills and
So
take care
that's
of the
so
overhead.
our money comes entirely out of that $99 platform fee.
Okay.
Um, and then we're also using part of that money gets allocated towards the training, towards buying like software licenses and things like that. And we're going to be expanding on this. Like we're
Okay.
still learning like how we can handle this, how we can do this.
Yeah. So
Um,
it's like $100 to just get access to the platform itself.
right.
And then
And then
thereafter we get a VA, and then we pay
you
that
get a
additional
VA.
expense.
Right. And
Okay.
the VA makes 100% of their rate. So if you're paying
Interesting. So
at
this is a
$5 a
much
month,
better situation than what we'd see on like a platform like Fiverr or Upwork, where they
yeah,
tax the hell out of their freelancers.
right, yeah. I've done some things as a contractor on Fiverr and Upwork and things like that, and a big chunk of my money goes to the platform because they're penalizing me, and there's an argument to be made either way. There's also something to be said about like I know up front that I'm paying this platform fee of $99. I know where that money is. I know how everything is allocated, so it doesn't feel shady to me at all because I know that when the $5 an hour comes out for Aya, that money's going to Aya,
Mhm.
right? And then if I choose to pay her more, I can. If I choose to, Venmo her a bonus every month or whatever, I mean, that's all there, right? Now, here's the
Not
deal.
that that's required, right? I
No,
don't want
none of
anybody to.
that's required. No, no, let me make it clear. Like you're
Someone's
only
gonna be
on the
like, but I
hook.
don't want to give them more money.
You don't have to give anybody more money. I'm saying I've had a lot of authors this past couple of weeks asking me like, well, what if I want to pay them more? What if I want to do this? It's your game. You get to play this however you want. There's
Yeah, yeah.
minimums. There's no maximums. And so until they tell me otherwise. But now the other bonus here, by the way, is that you're paying Author Anchor. We're taking care of things like the taxes, the international tax stuff, and all that.
Oh, nice.
All the like icky parts, the fees and all that stuff. It's pretty flat for you. So there's no hidden fees, no add-on fees, none of that
Okay.
stuff.
And it's really nice that to hear that you guys are still taking care of the freelancers themselves, because there's just often where they're, well, $5 per hour sometimes gets whittled down to like $2.50. And then
Yeah.
it really kind of screws that person
Let
over.
me let me say something to that too, because one of my first concerns when this came up was I don't want to engage in something that's exploitative, right? Like
Mhm.
I wanted I'm someone who like by the way, they'll work any hours you want. Like they're 15 hours. They're based in the Philippines. I'm not. We're above board about all this. Like these are VAs who are living and working in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And so the deal is they'll offset their hours. They're 15 hours ahead of me, but I has volunteered to just work my hours, right? And I feel bad about that. So I'm like, no, we use Slack. We don't have a need for instant, immediate communication. Leave your messages here. I'll leave my messages here, and we'll just communicate. And we have enough overlap in our schedule a couple times a day that every Monday we do a call at 5 o'clock my time, and that's like 7 a.m. her time, right? So that's the video call that we do. And frankly, I could get by without that. But my whole worry was about exploitation. Well, here's the deal. I went and researched all this. So in the Philippines, so the exchange rate is like 50 to 1. They have the Filipino peso
Hmm.
there. And against the dollar, it's like $1 is 50 pesos. And when I started looking into it, like the cost of living there, like in Manila, a family of four can live on, under $2,000 a month,
Wow.
right? Um, an individual can live on, like just a few $100s a month. Now, these are averages, right? There's always going to be higher and lower expenses depending on where you are, that sort of thing.
Understand.
Uh, but like I said, Aya's putting herself through grad school. She's improving her life with this money. It's not like,
Hmm.
this is good money for her, and she can take on more than one client through the service. So I may not be the only author she works with, unless I want to bring her in at 40 hours a week. Then the game changes. Perfectly allowable. I can do that. I don't have a need for that right now.
Yeah.
So you can work with someone exclusively, or you can allow them to go work with others, and it kind of benefits you. They have processes in place so that the work doesn't get mixed up or anything like that. But yeah, so that assuaged my any concerns I had when I kind of started looking into it. We don't really think about that here, but like you know, cost of living here in the U.S. is much, much, much higher. I live just north of Austin. Cost of living in the Austin area can be somewhat astronomical, even if it is better than some other regions of the country. But I couldn't get by on $5 an hour here. But if I lived in the Philippines, I could live like a king. So
Yeah.
maybe
A
someday I will.
couple final questions here for us to kind of
Yeah.
wrap things up, and we'll go to live Q&A.
Yep.
What's the vetting process like for Author Anchor? Are you guys just kind of, is it a free for all? Anybody that's willing to work for us, or do you guys have a full system that you
No,
do
we have
for auditing?
yeah, we do some vetting. They have to there's criteria here. There's a little
Okay.
bit of a kind of a check. And also, there's certain minimums like they have to be proficient in written and spoken English. A lot of times what we get is referral from the rest of our network. So the information economy is huge in the Philippines, by the way. So there's a lot of people who are training to do remote work. And so it's a huge cottage industry in that region. So what we what we do, we're out looking for the best of the best. So like, we're not out signing up just anybody.
Yeah.
We
You got a
want
pulse.
people.
Come on, let's go.
Yeah, yeah. And because they have to go through regular training, it's easy to weed people out if they're just not in
Yep.
it, you know? So yeah, so that's actually it's in a way, it's an ongoing vetting process because
Wow.
as things go, first of all, you start to see right away if this VA has worked with, three or four different authors already and they've been, turned out by each one. It's pretty easy to spot the folks who aren't actually doing the job, right? And so as we get complaints, that's one metric, but just, the training itself. But I gotta tell you, man, I mean, everybody I've encountered, every VA I interviewed, everyone I've talked to in this process, has just been amazingly kind and sweet people. Yeah, it's not just I say she a lot because all the VAs I meet tend to be female, but there are some males in this, and
Hmm.
they're just good people, and I kind of like that I'm contributing to their bottom line in some way. So, but anyway, the vetting process exists. We have a way
That's
to
good.
make sure they're good for you,
So,
and there's ways to safeguard yourself, by the way, with in terms of passwords and stuff. I'm using LastPass, but there's all
yeah.
kinds of ways to vet yourself.
One final question, and we'll go
Hmm.
into our lightning round of questions. Where do you see Author Anchor going in the next year? Is there any new features or expansions planned? Do you got some inside intel here for everybody? Because everybody loves the scoop.
Yeah. We're brand new, as you know. I mean, we basically officially only been around for maybe a couple of weeks. This is sort of a sub business under Book Brush. So yeah, there are some growth planned. There's some stuff on the board. New partnerships. We want to make sure that we're connecting with others in the industry. I've been talking to a ton of people about like how do we work together, including, by the way, some VAs who are sort of I don't know the best way to describe this, but I've talked to a few VAs who are kind of like elite VAs who like work with big name authors and stuff for a lot more than what we charge. Talking to them about like how do we incorporate working with each other, and instead of being going at it like we're competing, how do we work together? And a lot of them have been very open to this. So there's a whole lot of things. I'm going to vague talk that though, because you never want to give away too much. And also, I don't know. I mean, I don't know everything that that they have on the board yet.
Yeah.
But I know that we're continuously growing this, and we're figuring it out as we go.
All right, Kevin, it's time for our 2-minute lightning round where
All
we
right.
dive into rapid fire questions designed to spark quick, honest, and
All
spontaneous
right.
answers. Each question is aimed at giving viewers fresh insights into my guest's unique experiences and personality, all with a twist of fun. Our guest has 2 minutes to answer each question or say pass and move on. Expect candid thoughts, fast paced reflections, and maybe, just maybe, a few surprises. Kevin, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, he's
Let's
got his
do it.
neck loosened up. He might want to get that neck checked out.
My neck is killing me.
All
There's
right,
a
the
lot of
timer will
crackling.
start. You won't hear the timer, but everybody else will hear it. I'll hear it. I'll let you know. I'll tell you stop as soon as it's up here. The time to beat is Dana Claire. She did all 20 questions in 18 seconds to spare.
All right,
So
Dana, you're
here
in
we
my
go.
sights. All
What's
right.
the last book you couldn't put down?
Oh, uh, you caught me on the spot. How to read a book,
Coffee or tea while writing?
coffee, and also coffee while writing.
If you could have any dinner, or if you could have dinner with any author, living or dead, who would it be?
Oh, good one. How about I'm going to say Piers Anthony for lack of any other answer.
Favorite genre to read?
Thrillers.
What's your dream travel destination?
Greece.
One word to describe your writing process.
Brilliant.
Most underrated book every author should read.
Um, Autobiography of Ben Franklin.
Favorite writing snack.
Coffee.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Teleportation.
Biggest pet peeve when editing or reviewing a manuscript.
The automated suggestions that keep trying to make me remove the word was.
What book genre would you never try writing?
Erotica.
Pen and paper or typing?
Typing.
The best piece of advice you've ever received.
Write every day.
If you weren't an author, what would you be?
Sad.
Do you prefer plotting your book in detail or winging it?
Winging it with caveats.
If your life were a book, what genre would it be?
Fantasy.
Hardcovers, paperbacks, or ebooks?
Paperbacks.
What's the strangest place you've found writing inspiration?
The men's room.
Best part of being an author?
Interacting with readers.
One word to describe where you see your career in 5 years.
Dan Brown levels of success.
Oh my goodness. You hit it right at 2 minutes. Right at 2 minutes. Literally, you finished it right as it hits at 2 minutes.
Oh, so I did not beat Dana Claire.
Sadly, no, you did not. But you do make a very, like, you're the second person to ever answer all 20 within the 2 minutes. So
Excellent.
So
Excellent.
that is good.
You stumped me with the book ones. So
very good.
yeah.
Kevin, I've given you a battery of questions. One last little plug here. Where can people find out more information about your new service?
Are we out of time? We can't answer.
No, we are going to
questions?
go answer some
Oh,
questions.
we're going to
I'm
answer
not
those.
booting you
Where
off.
can people should so if you first of all, you should be going to authoranchor.com/promo to get on that onboarding call. You absolutely should. It's a free call. It's worth the time, even if you're on the fence about whether or not you're going to do a VA. use a VA. Go ahead and do that call because you may actually find yourself finding a reason to go for it. So do that. If you're looking for me, it's kevintumlinson.com. That's all things Kevin. I need to actually put the author anchor link on my. Usually I have links for all that kind of stuff on my homepage, but I don't have it yet.
I am quietly judging you over here for sure.
I know, man. Well, this is all pretty new, you know. Like
Yeah.
this thing didn't really exist for me a month ago. So,
Brand spanking new for sure. All
yep.
right, so I'm going to go through the questions and answers here, folks. We're going to try to wrap it up here at the top of the hour. I want to give a big shout out to Nate Gillick from Later Press. Thank you so much for tuning in, buddy. Aaron in Legacy, great to see you. Sybil Ward, awesome to see you. Author Tom McAuliffe has a few questions for you. He says, can we specify that a VA is within the United States?
No, because they are all from the Philippines.
All from the Philippines.
They're all Filipino. Yeah.
And it is month to month billing, right?
It is month to month, no
Okay.
contract.
No contract, so I can cancel.
I'm kind of handling this like the shotgun round again, but yes.
Yeah.
If we need
He said specifically, can we train them? Can we show them how we want it done? I'm pretty sure that's what you went in depth about was you can train them up according to what you already know, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a systems thinker, so I try to create as many systems as possible. What I'm learning to do though is to ask them to produce the system. Tell me how you would do it. Because then you can correct what they've done and use it as a training tool to get them on board with how you prefer to do it. But you may be surprised and find out that they have a different method that's better than yours.
Good point. Todd Davidson says, do any of the VAs have expertise in entertainment law, or is that strictly legal aid responsibility?
I would seek someone whose specialty is that. Doesn't mean that some of our folks haven't worked around that, but they're not. I doubt that they're specifically trained for that.
Yeah.
However, if you want to ask that as one of the questions when you do the discovery call, um, it's possible we might be able to find somebody who does have that experience. But just remember, they're coming outside the U.S. They're coming from outside the U.S. So they even if they do have that experience, it may not be specific to U.S. IP law. I
Gotcha.
would still hire, and I have some recommendations I could dig up for you for an IP attorney. I would still go that route.
Yeah, smart. Ariel Burns asks the same question. I was just thinking, and it slipped my mind while we were chatting. Are there VAs that know how to edit video and audio?
Yes. Yes. In fact, Aya has some experience doing edits, especially for like the short form stuff that I'm no good at and I don't have patience for. So I don't want to have anything to do with TikTok. So she's doing all the TikTok stuff on my behalf.
Okay.
But yes, you can specifically ask for that as a skill set if that's something that you really need. They can produce podcasts, help with video, help me, keep the YouTube stuff going, anything you need. So.
Nice. Tom asks a pretty good question. He says, is there a list of services that are offered with the VAs on the site?
So we should probably put together, I don't think so. But we should probably put something like that together. But
You
it's
mentioned so
more,
much during this broadcast. I think it would be very,
yeah.
very helpful to have it there for sure.
If you go to the website and you look, there's a little scrolling banner at the bottom,
Okay.
and I don't know if there's like a bullet list somewhere, but all those services, and it's like Slack, MailerLite, BookBrush, of course, Meta, Kickstarter, BookFunnel. It's a whole list of things, but that's not the limit. I already know of what they're trained to do, and I'm actively forming partnerships with people outside of this group to so that we can continue to train them on new things. We're going to be constantly adding new stuff.
Nice.
Uh, I have not yet spotted a list on the site. Maybe we need one. And they may tell me after the fact that, hey, bonehead, we had a whole bullet list of these things.
Right.
Uh,
We're going to give you a little bit of leniency since repeat guest leniency since you've been on so many times before.
I appreciate that.
Well, I tell you what, it has been a blast. We've blasted through an hour like it was nobody's business.
Of course. Yeah.
So once again, can you share where people can find out more information about Author Anchor?
Author Anchor, go to authoranchor.com/promo. Tell them that Dale Roberts sent you. And if you do that, you get $50 off of your first month with Author Anchor if you sign up. If you don't sign up, you get nothing. But if you sign up
Yeah.
and tell them Dale sent you, then you can get $50 off that first month.
By the way, I'm just finding this out too here, folks. So
Me too.
there is.
I just made this up right now.
I updated the link inside the description, folks, so that way you can see it's going on over there. But Kevin, I'm going to put you on over into the virtual green room. I'm going to have a quick word here with the folks here, and stick around because I'm going to chat with you as soon as we're
I
off
will
air.
be here as green can be. Thanks for having me on, man.
Thank you very much. Hey folks, over the past few months, I've provided the best author and expert interviews every week on YouTube. However, this will be the last interview on this channel indefinitely. However, if you'd like to get more interviews like this, join me on my podcast channel at dalelinks.com/YouTube podcast. Starting May 19th, I'll be interviewing a new guest every Monday night live at 6:15 p.m. Eastern Daytime on my podcast channel. Live viewers will still have the chance to interact with guests and get their burning questions answered. Again, that'll be starting May 19th, every Monday night at 6:15 p.m. Eastern Daytime. DaleLinks.com/YouTube podcast. Till later, this has been Self-Publishing with Dale, and I'll catch you guys soon. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. Special shout out to my channel members for both the podcast channel and the main channel. Without your support, some projects we do at Self-Publishing with Dale would be much harder to fund. If you want to contribute to the cause, visit dalelinks.com/memberships for details and get your on-screen shout out at the end of each broadcast. Till later, this has been Self-Publishing with Dale, and I'll see you soon.